This is CBC Here and Now.
I'm Anthony Germain, live at the St. John's International Airport. This is where a bit of history is going to be made when an aircraft, the first to Canada, is going to land here in St. John's, Newfoundland, something the Premier is particularly proud of.
Remember, these people have been displaced from their own homes, lost their way of life, lost their family. Often, as we've seen on TV, their homes have been completely destroyed, so there's nothing to go back for.
Well, closer to home, fire destroys a house in Labrador City tonight. Why the fire chief says spectators are getting in the way of firefighters doing their job. Good evening and welcome to Here and Now. I'm Peter Cowan.
And I'm Anthony Germain. As I mentioned right off the top, people here behind me on this other side, there's some students actually here with Welcome to Newfoundland signs. They're waiting for this aircraft to land here in about an hour, so just about towards the end of Here and Now. The Premier is going to join us shortly. And of course, the preparation for all this has to do with the fact that this province, our province, sent a team to Poland to actually organize as they selected immigrants on the various qualifications for language and proficiency in certain skills. And so they've been processing those people for the last 6 weeks or so. And so what's going to happen in about 50 minutes is as a result of all that work. Now we're told that there are several dozen, more than 40 children on that aircraft. Also, a few moments ago, I saw somebody go by with a bag of dog food and other things for pets. Apparently, there are a good number of animals on the aircraft as well. So we're getting about 160 or so people. And of course, as we've seen in the coverage of this devastating conflict with Russia, people's lives basically being uprooted, destroyed, their homes no longer exist. And so these people have made the very difficult decision that they've had to leave. Now, whether they're going to stay in Newfoundland and Labrador, are they going to become citizens and remain? That, of course, in the chaos of war, it's too soon to be able to answer those questions. But I will be putting those questions when we talk to the Premier in just a moment, because, of course, there are lots of questions. How many more aircraft carrying 160 people will this province be able to accept? This, of course, all depends, on what sorts of agreements are made with the federal government. The other issue for our province has to do with, is this going to be a towny kind of assistance and humanitarian aid? What steps are in place to make sure that Ukrainians are actually introduced to other communities off the Avalon Peninsula so that they can actually go elsewhere? So there's a number of questions for this flight. Lots of celebratory mood here at the airport tonight with the people who've worked so hard to make this happen. But there will be certainly questions about, how is this going to unfold? 160 people, the jobs. As I think people know, Newfoundland still has one of the highest unemployment rates in the country. And so that's going to be a factor in terms of actually being able to get employment. And so those are some of the issues. Now, Premier Andrew Furey is just coming over to join me right now. Premier, appreciate your time. Thank you for making it. I'll have to do this the right way. So listen, a lot of work went into this.
Yeah.
They're finally going to be here. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling great. It's a proud day for me, but a proud day for the whole province. When we saw the atrocities happen in Europe, I think, we witnessed a war. So I don't think anyone anticipated that, but to see the mass migration that hasn't happened since World War II happening in Europe, and then to see the open hearts and homes of the outpouring of support from people here in the province, we knew we needed to capitalize on that. We knew we could step up on the global stage, which we have before, whether it's 9/11 or in World War I.
Right.
We knew we had to be a part of something here, and so that's why we established this desk.
I'm a bit older than you, and I wonder if you think back to the Vietnam War, there were the boat people, and it's just an incredible wave of immigration. Have you given much thought to the saturation ability of the province? I mean, how many more planes can we actually take, or do we want to take in the future? I know it's early, the first one's
those are early days, yeah, sure.
But do you have a sense? I mean, do we want 500 Ukrainians, 1,000 Ukrainians?
Well, look, we know there's about 600 or 700 right now in the queue. We think we can handle that. Certainly. We all know that there's labor demands here, for example. But more importantly, this needs to be a place of safe haven. We'll sort out the details about whether it's saturated or not. These are people who've lost their homes. Many of their homes that we've seen on TV have been destroyed by missiles. They have no place to call home, and we want to provide a home for them. So all those details about saturations and equilibrium of immigration versus job status, job employment opportunities, we'll sort that out with time, and we are considering it. But first and foremost, we want to provide a safe haven and a place of hope and optimism for these people.
Now, obviously, I think for some of the most horrendous victims of wars, and they're horrendous for everybody, but children, and apparently there's 40 plus 55 kids.
Yeah.
Okay. As far as education goes, sometimes when we've had these influxes in different provinces, there's been a way to get some help from the federal government, especially for language in schools, because education is provincial. You bring in immigrants or refugees, you got to pick up the bill for this. Can you get some assistance from Ottawa to help out with
Well, we've had ongoing discussions with Ottawa. Of course, this venture is unique across Canada and frankly unique in North America. So we are still working with them. They're replicating what we have done here now. So we're hoping that those conversations about how we have achieved this will open up opportunities to further collaborate, whether it's on the healthcare requirements, job requirements, or educational requirements, as you kind of rightly point out.
Right. Well, I know there's a lot of excitement. You've got other stuff to do. So, Premier Fury, thank you for your time.
Thanks very much, and thanks to everybody who's offered to help in this venture. Everybody should feel a piece of ownership over this.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
That's Premier Andrew Fury. Here we are live at the airport. Now, the Premier just mentioned that people are helping out. A bit later on Here and Now, you're going to meet a woman whose rooms are filled as a result of generosity of people in Newfoundland and Labrador who want to help these Ukrainians who are landing here in about 40 minutes.
Thank you very much, Anthony. We'll check back in with you again at the airport as we get closer to the time of the arrival of that flight. Well, to Western Labrador now, a house fire this weekend in Labrador City has left a family of 4 homeless, and the town's fire chief says what's slowing them down? Well, it was people who came just to watch. Here now's Daryl Din reports.
The fire broke out early Saturday evening. Flames ripped through this duplex, destroying one house and damaging the other. The family living here managed to escape, but they didn't salvage anything. As the fire raged on Saturday, people came out to watch. The fire chief says they got in the way and slowed the response of some of the volunteer firefighters. Fire Chief Joe Power said there was a lot of traffic and a lot of onlookers again. I just don't understand why people would want to come out and watch such devastation to someone else's life, along with slowing down our response. This is not the first time the chief has expressed frustration with spectators. He raised the issue last year too. In the future, the fire department is planning to work with the RNC to close off a fire area to keep spectators away. The family who lived here is now staying with friends. Volunteers have already collected donations and started a 50-50 cash fundraiser to help them. The other unit was vacant. They're both owned by Newfoundland and Labrador Housing, so this is a loss for a region facing a housing shortage. New public housing units are under renovation, but they're at least a year away from completion. Newfoundland and Labrador Housing says it's working with the tenants to find alternative accommodations. It says it's assessing the damage in order to get the unit available for occupancy as soon as possible. The cause of the fire has yet to be determined. Daryl Din, CBC News, Labrador City.
All right, welcome back. I thought I was only going to be here for one day, but it turns out I was actually 2 because I got the schedule wrong. Anyways, as promised on Friday, I said it was going to be nice later in the week, and it is. So let's just take a quick look at some of the temperatures that we're going to see tomorrow. Port aux Basques 9, St. John's 8, but look at central Newfoundland, 16 degrees, and that's going to hit Grand Falls, Winder, Springdale, Gander. And then we're going to move up. If we take a quick look up to Labrador, look at those double digits there in central and western Labrador and in the east as well. And we'll have more about this. I will have more about this and the hot temperatures we can expect on Wednesday as well coming up later on in the show.
Thanks, Jeremy. There has been one new death due to COVID-19 in the province since the last update on Friday. It was a person over the age of 80. As well, Public Health says there are now 14 people in hospital because of the virus. The good news is that's down 3 from Friday. 4 of those are in critical care. And there were just 151 new confirmed cases of the virus, but because of reduced testing, that doesn't necessarily represent the full case count in the province. Well, a call for a legislative change that aims to make the justice system less traumatic for people who are sexually assaulted was discussed outside the House of Assembly today. Last week, lawyer Lynn Moore said there are 8 women who are preparing to file a civil suit claiming they were sexually assaulted by RNC officers. But before they can receive a publication ban in civil court to protect their identity, each of them has to prove that revealing that information publicly would cause harm. Moore says it's a traumatic process that prevents victims from coming forward. However, she says her repeated calls for a legislative change to automatically protect the identity of people claiming they were sexually abused has been ignored by government. Well, progressive conservative critic Helen Conway Ottenheimer says she agrees that a legislative change is needed.
First of all, it re-victimizes the plaintiff as well. It not only re-victimizes them, and it's very traumatic for them to have to go through that extra step before they even get to the courts. It also, I think, has a chilling effect in terms of other women that may want to come forward.
Today, Justice Minister John Hogan says it's something that he's willing to look at.
It's certainly something that we'll look at. It's not within the total control, I would say, of the Department of Justice and Public Safety, because it's a broader conversation than just bringing in a legislative change. Just to back up a little bit and what we're speaking about here, there's common law principles that the court is an open process and everyone who attends court needs to do so the public is fully aware of what's going on. Obviously, in situations like we're talking about today, victims of assault and sexual violence and domestic violence and terrible things like that, we don't want individuals, and I guess I'll say women mostly, to have to go through a process that makes it worse for them. We'll absolutely talk to individuals about a process that can make it easier for, like I said, in this case, sexual assault victims who don't want to be re-traumatized, and we don't want to re-traumatize them.
Well, a new airline has announced an expansion to its service to St. John's before its first flight is even here. Today, Lynx announced 2 new destinations. It's extending flights already going to Toronto to service Calgary and Edmonton several times a week. You'll have to stop in Toronto, but you won't have to change planes. That service is going to launch in mid-July. The new St. John's flights are now on sale with a 50% off base fares for 2 days.
We're targeting areas that have got high fares, and I think what we're hearing from everybody is that St. John's is really high on their destination list, but they can't afford to fly here. So by offering ultra affordable fares, Lynx Air is going to inspire more people to be able to travel to St. John's.
So how much cheaper is Lynx than the competition? I'll ask the CEO a little later in the show. Well, doctor shortages take hold across the province, and ambulance operators and paramedics are carrying an even heavier workload. On the south coast of Newfoundland, patients are routinely driven to Grand Falls, Windsor, which can be up to 3 hours away. One paramedic in the town of Hermitage says it's taking a toll on her and her colleagues.
We used to think Arbor Breton was far away in regards to medical attention for our patients, having an half hour from Hermitage or 45 minutes from Seal Cove. And it was only a few days ago we were on our way back from Grand Falls and we looked at each other and we said, how nice would it be now to have the half-hour trip to Arbor Breton? We didn't appreciate really how good we actually had it. Our typical calls were, you get a call, you get your patient to Arbor Breton, you get them stable enough if they needed to go to Grand Falls. Quite a few of our patients required a nurse to be in the back of the ambulance for the trip from Arbor Breton to Grand Falls. There's been several times when actually a nurse and a doctor, or even 2 nurses have been in the back of the ambulance. So we've had 3 sets of hands. Now we're expected to do that job by ourselves for 2.5 hours. You knew once you got to Arbor Breton, you had a doctor, you had a nurse. So if we can get them to Arbor Breton, they got a chance. And now when we leave, it's like you don't even have cell phone service to call, your online medical control to help you through some of those situations that you might need help with. And then in the event that something does happen, if you had to do CPR on the way, you're pulling over on the side of the road. And you're not going any further, because guess what? You're not going to do one person's CPR for very long. So your patient's chance is, of survival is diminishing because you only got 1 set of hands in the back. And that's what bothers me the most, is the patients are going to suffer for it. It's when you got a patient that would have made it to Arbor Breton, but they didn't make it to Grand Falls. And then that's when guilt sinks in. And we're starting to blame ourselves because we were the ones solely responsible for them. So yeah, that part is very, very difficult. We don't know what call is going to be our last call. I call it the domino effect. You have the doctors just left Arbor Breton. Now, you're hearing about the nurses leaving Arbor Breton. We're going to end up leaving. Grand Falls is up there, and I mean, we're through all walk through emerge. Is not even, there's no words to describe when you walk through emerge in Grand Falls. And you look at the faces of the nurses, the doctors, the paramedics up there, everybody's wore thin. They don't have much more left to give. A little bit of compassion goes a long way, but where's the compassion going to be now? Do we have time to sit and hold a patient's hand anymore? Do we have time to sit and just air them out if they need to tell us something? And that part is gone, and to me that's really sad.
While Central Health says ambulance support throughout the region is provided by Central Health, private companies and community operators. It says these three often help each other when needed. Additional support has also been provided in some areas related to ER closures or extended diversions. And it says additional staff or an escort of a patient on an ambulance is for the most part based on clinical assessment and patient acuity.
The Walrus can move extremely fast. You know, they look like big, cumbersome things, but they can really move.
I am the Walrus, choo-choo, choo-choo. Oh my God, that's terrible.
He's not here for his singing duties.
No.
A lot of people have been singing that Beatles song, though, after the Walrus came ashore on Middle Cove Beach yesterday.
Next, we will have my interview with DFO about what brought it here. And also coming up in the weather, we're going to take a look at today's temperatures, which is getting warmer, and it's only going to get hotter, and then it's going to get colder. Always with the good news, I am. That's coming up after the break.
Jeremy, you promised some pretty decent weekend weather.
I did.
And you delivered.
I did.
And with that beautiful weekend weather, there were lots of people headed to Middle Cove Beach. Why? Because there was a massive visitor, a walrus. Might seem like a rare sight.
I thought it was.
But apparently we're seeing more of them.
We certainly are. So first of all, I didn't know that somebody had written the Beatles lyrics as the intro before we went to the commercial, so I did mess it up, so I apologize to Julie who wrote that up in the control room. But anyways, over the past decade, DFO has seen at least one walrus coming ashore every single year. On Saturday, a DFO scientist who has spent more than 36 years with the Department of Fisheries and Ocean got to see one in real life for the first time ever. And I spoke with Jerry Stenson on Middle Cove Beach earlier today.
This is the first one. The last couple that we've had, I've always been interested in going out to see them, but they never stick around long enough. And it just so happened that this year I heard about them and I'm close enough that we were able to get down. So yeah, that's my first one. So it was quite exciting. Looked to be a relatively young male. Over the last probably 8-9 years, we've been getting the occasional walrus show up. I went back and looked at some of the pictures, and clearly some of them are different walrus, but other ones could have been this individual. So we know that there's at least a couple that have come down here as stragglers. This particular individual looks like the one that was up in Greats Cove back in January. When I first saw him on Saturday, he was curled up and he looked not too bad. But when I've seen him now, the pictures of him stretched out, he is looking a little thin. He's definitely not fat. He looks, if anything, maybe a little better than the picture that I saw from January. But clearly he's been around here for 5-6 months. We'll see one here, then we see another one, but not really common. However, in the last couple of years, we've been hearing them pretty regularly, just about every year. Babels, Portugal Cove, I think it was last year, the year after, or the year before, there was one that was hauled out, seen just outside of Freshwater Bay. So we have been seeing them, and they're stragglers coming down from the Arctic populations. Populations in the Arctic aren't doing too bad, so maybe that's part of it also. But it could just simply be that they're wandering, and we see them around. It's the same thing that we've been seeing the odd beluga also showing up, generally young ones, and you see them in a number of the harbors over the last few years as well. Just the fact that they're on the beach doesn't necessarily mean there's anything wrong with them. Walrus regularly haul out, usually in large groups, and they just rest. And when they're resting, they're sort of oblivious to the world. He seemed to ignore the people around him. And whether that's, I don't know enough about walrus behavior to say if that's it, but walrus they're big, dominant animals. They probably don't have a lot of predators that they worry about. So we, even if there are a lot of us, probably don't pose much of a danger to it, or at least that it would see as it. So it doesn't surprise me that he didn't actually respond, in the sense of showing any sort of fright to it. But then again, the fishery officers were here to make sure that nobody got too close to it. I suppose it'd be like any wild animal. If it feels that it's being in danger, then it will respond. Walrus can move extremely fast. They look like big, cumbersome things, but they can really move, and they can also be very aggressive. We've seen pictures of them killing seals and fighting back polar bears, and so they're not going to take it lightly. So the best thing to do is just keep well out of its way and don't get anywhere close to it.
Now, the other thing I learned today, Peter, was historically we've had walrus in and around Newfoundland, so around Sable Island, Gulf of St. Lawrence, and on the west coast of the island. But that population was hunted excessively, according to Stenson, and by 1850, they were gone. So not a total rarity, but it's getting more and more common.
We saw some of that nice sunny weather today. You were out doing that interview, and I understand you have more for us.
Yes, as I said.
We had nice weather. We want more of it.
Give me more, Jeremy. Give me more. As I said repeatedly on Friday, things are going to start bad and get better, but now they're going to get better and even better. I guess it would be more better. Anyway, so these are, I just wanted to show you the today's highs because there's a nice range of temperatures. You're looking at like 6 there in Cape Race, and if you move across, 16 degrees in Labrador City. So it was a pretty nice day in and around St. John's and the Avalon and almost all across the province. So that's good news, and it's only going to get better. So tonight, what we're looking at here, as you can see, it is going to get cold overnight, a little bit chilly overnight, like -4 in St. John's, -6 in Grand Falls, Windsor. There's a few showers there as well, -1 in Corner Brook, but it's going to be clear, and 1 degree in St. Anthony. And we move up to Labrador, it'll be just about the same. Oopsie, not 2 to 4 centimeters going to be there. That's an oversight. So -4 in Cartwright, 4 degrees in Nain, no precipitation despite it saying 2 to 4 centimeters. Now, as I said repeatedly, it was going to get nicer midweek by Wednesday, but it's actually going to be a pretty nice day in parts of the province tomorrow, which is Tuesday, I believe. Take a quick look at that. Well, we'll look at the future tracker first and see why that's going to happen. So overnight, you can see there's a little bit of cloud cover that's going to push off into the early morning hours. Now, there should be, even though there's going to be a lot of sun in the forecast in the next couple of days, there will be a little bit of cloud cover, but nothing really to worry about. So this is what we're talking about. This is what we're all waiting for. It's been a long couple of years, but it's been a particularly long and cold spring and winter. So this is going to be some good news. It's going to be a little bit chillier on the Avalon. You're looking at about 8 degrees there in Placentia and St. John's, but that doubles when you get up to Clarenville, Bonavista. Marystown's going to sit at 14 degrees, and as you move into Central, it's going to get even warmer. So let's just take a quick look at that. Now, I do want to keep in mind, and I apologize to the folks who are on the lower coast and the higher coast. Over there, never mind, doesn't work, never works. Harbour Breton's going to be 9 degrees, Twillingate, you're going to be 10. So basically, but look at that, 16 across Terra Nova, Gander, Grand Falls, Windsor, Springdale. It's going to look nice. And as we move to the west coast, that'll continue into the Humber Valley. But at Corner Brook and Gross Moor, it drops a little bit. And Burgeo, Portabass, you're going to sit at about 9 degrees. Now, as we move up, you can see there in the Northern Peninsula, you're looking at 6 to 9 degrees, but there's a lot of sun in the forecast, which is good. 13 degrees in Cartwright and Mary's Harbour. And as you can see, there's not much cloud cover, or there's like no precipitation really in the forecast for the next little bit. But as you can see, 16 Happy Valley, Goose Bay, 12 in Labrador City. So we'll take a quick look at the future tracker going into Tuesday, into Wednesday, and you can see there's a little bit of rain up there on the northern tip of Labrador there. But nothing really to worry about, and that's why I wanted to bring that down. You could see Wednesday night into Thursday, you might see some showers that could turn to flurries in the Labrador coast area, but it's looking like it's going to be a pretty nice couple of days. So I wanted to show you now. Now we're getting ahead of ourselves, okay? We're getting ahead of ourselves, but that's my bad. I wanted to show you what it's going to look like on Wednesday, and there's a reason for this. So I called our friends at the Gander Weather Office for Environment Canada, where I get all my information and facts, and we've yet to have anybody, any community, any town, any local service district, any city hit 20 degrees so far in 2022. But it's looking very likely that that's going to happen in Grand Falls, Windsor, Gander, or Springdale. Now, nobody's taken bets. And it also could hit up to 20 degrees in Happy Valley, Goose Bay. So Tuesday, it's going to be a little bit of a chilly start for a lot of people, especially on the Avalon and on the west coast and on the southwest coast and up in the Twillingate area, up that way, Bonavista. It'll be a little bit chillier to start, but it is going to warm up as the day moves on. And then it's only going to get nicer as we move into Wednesday. But I got some bad news. Enjoy Tuesday, enjoy Wednesday, because the bad news is going to come Thursday. Now, if you're looking at 22 degrees, or even in St. John's, you're looking at 18 degrees, you're like, that's great. Maybe I'll go to Sunshine Camp. I'll go to Rotary Park. I'll go for a swim in the pond. I wouldn't do that. I tried it last weekend. It's freezing cold. Don't want to be at it. You're going to have to wait a little while for the water to warm up. But what I would like everyone to do, if you can, maybe just try to get out and enjoy the weather as best you can. Now, we'll have more about the bad news that's going to come Thursday later on in the next forecast. Later in the show.
Well, just in time for the busy summer season, there are some new airline routes in and out of the province. Today, Lynx announced it's going to be flying from St. John's to both Edmonton and Calgary starting in July, just in time for come home year. So those markets are already served by Air Canada and WestJet. So what does Lynx have to offer? Well, Maren MacArthur is the CEO of Lynx. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks very much, Peter. I'm really pleased to be here.
So why have you picked Newfoundland and Labrador as an expansion area out of all the places you could be expanding your route in Canada?
Well, we had heard so much about St John's, and we're targeting areas that have got high fares, and I think what we're hearing from everybody is that St John's is really high on their destination list, but they can't afford to fly here. We had all these people from Edmonton and Calgary coming up to us and saying, when are you going to fly from our cities to St John's? We really want to fly to St John's. And so we had so much demand for both the Toronto services and also out of Edmonton and Calgary that today we're announcing an expansion to both those two cities as well. So there'll be 5 through flights a week from Edmonton and 2 through flights a week from Calgary. And what that means is it's a single flight, but it does stop off in Toronto for a brief time and then continues on to St John's. So people will have a single boarding pass, and they'll also be able to check their bags through to the destination if they want. So it's effectively like a direct flight. It's just got a little bit of a time on the ground in Toronto.
So those markets are already well served by WestJet, by Air Canada. Why do you think you'll be able to convince people to fly Lynx instead?
Well, through our ultra affordable fares. So Lynx's mission is to make air travel accessible for all Canadians through our ultra affordable fares, and they are really, really low. I can share that our flights to and from St John's are as low as $119 one way, including taxes.
Now, I picked a couple of dates at the end of July into August, and like a one-way ticket to Edmonton, for example, on WestJet is $290. With Lynx, it's $260. So with it being that close, do you really expect people to switch?
Well, those are interesting fares from the competitor, I have to say, and I think that's the normal practice that we see when we enter in a market. They come down, and that's what they'll do, and that's good for customers. So I don't complain about that. We're still going to be the lowest in the long run because we've got the lowest cost base, and so sustainably we'll be offering the lowest fares for Canadians.
The big carriers like WestJet and Air Canada will often lower their fares in order to compete with a new competitor. Are you worried that that's going to happen here?
Well, we're not worried about competition. That's just the nature of a competitive environment, right? And aviation is one of the most competitive industries in the world, and so we're used to that. I think what we'll be consistently able to offer the lowest fares in the market because we will have the lowest cost base. We'll have a very efficient, brand new Boeing 737 fleet and a very simple, transparent model which allows people to save money on the fares so that they can spend more at the destination. So I think we'll be able to maintain our low fares even when they're being competitive with us.
So this is come home year where the province has spent a lot of time and effort marketing people to come here. Did that factor into the decision to add these new routes for the summer?
Yeah, look, I think it's never been a better time to launch an airline than now. People think that's surprising, but as we come out of COVID, Canadians are really wanting to fly and connect with their family and friends in their favourite places across Canada, and that's what we're here to do. And St John's, being on the furthest eastern point in Canada, is a key target market for us, both inbound into St John's and people from St John's exploring the rest of Canada. And we want to make that accessible to everyone with our low fares.
Well, thank you very much for joining us.
Okay, it's a pleasure. Thank you.
Well, some students from St. Paul's Junior High are here. So is the principal, as well as a mystery guest. They're here to welcome the Ukrainians, and they're going to be arriving here in the next 25 minutes or so. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the St. John's International Airport. I'm joined now by some people who've come from St. Paul's Junior High. I want to talk to them about why they're here. As you can see, they've got welcome signs. So tell me, what's your name and why did you want to be here?
My name is Kate Rumbold, and we're here from St. Paul's to welcome everyone that's coming from Ukraine, but especially the kids, so the kids can see that there's other students in this province that care about them and that know what's happening over in Ukraine right now.
Right, because we've been told there are quite a few children, and I'm assuming that means there's also quite a few teenagers. What's your name?
My name is Julia Lamp.
Okay, and Julia, why did you want to be here holding up this sign and with the Canadian flag?
Well, like she said, we want the Ukrainians to know that there are people here that know about what's happening and that care about what's happening, and not just watching it like it's any other old TV show.
Right. And have you ever thought about what it must be like to have to, leave the country that you're at, fly across the other side of the world?
Yeah, I think that would be pretty terrifying, especially if you're just coming from a war-torn country and not knowing what's happening next.
All right. Now, as you might notice, I managed to get tagged there during the commercial, and they've been making these buttons to raise money. What have you been doing to get ready for today?
Well, we made these posters today. We were so excited to find out that we could come here and welcome all the Ukrainians to Newfoundland. And we made all these pins here. We've been giving them out to a few people around the airport, just so that all the Ukrainians feel welcome here.
Okay, and I didn't ask you your name. What's your name?
Natalie Mitchell.
Okay, Natalie, thank you very much. Now, principals always get the last word, and you are?
Hi, I'm Elizabeth Arez. I'm the principal of St. Paul's Junior High.
Okay, Elizabeth, why did you want to make sure that students were here for this moment tonight?
Because our newcomers that are coming here need to feel welcome and know that the students are welcoming them with open arms as well.
Right. And I guess it's, when the people start arriving through here, we don't know exactly what kind of scene that we're going to see. Are any of you a bit nervous?
Yeah, a little.
Really?
Yeah.
What are you nervous about?
Well, I'm nervous that they might be a bit scared because there's going to be people they don't know, and it's a new place and a new experience.
Right. It can also be kind of overwhelming for some, right?
Yeah.
If you could do anything to sort of help a teenager like you, because you're both in grade 8, you're in grade 9, right? I mean, being a teenager is challenging at the best of times. What kind of help do you think teenagers will need as they get used to life in Newfoundland?
I think it'll be important that they get access to being around other teenagers, because being just around like adults older than them, that's not really fun for them. Teenagers like to socialize, so I think it'll be important to make sure that students who are interested in helping them, like us, get a chance to meet them and let those kids know that they are welcomed here and really feel included.
Very, very well said. Well, listen, I hope you get to meet some of them, and I look forward to, I'll follow up with your principal to see exactly what happens, because who knows, you might end up making some Ukrainian friends after tonight. Who knows, right? Well, thank you all very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Really appreciate that. All right, so there you see some students from St. Paul's Junior High as well as the principal. They are here to welcome Ukrainians who are going to arrive here. I'm looking at the arrivals, not too distant future, about 20 minutes or so. Moving to a new country is very, very difficult, and I want to introduce you to a woman from Eastern Europe who made the same kind of move that these Ukrainians will be making tonight. She had a job lined up, and it still wasn't easy.
These guys, they're arriving with one suitcase, so they will need everything. They will need housing, jobs, dishes, kitchenware, bedding, anything. And for the next 2 months, they will need money to survive. They will need to learn English. They will need to find a job. So basically, we decided to step in and help those guys. We received a lot more donations that we actually were thinking of. Right now, we have, I don't know, maybe 1,000 dishes, maybe 60 or 70 winter jackets and coats, all the shoes. I have, right now I'm having donations in my greenhouse. I have 2 greenhouses full of clothing for women, men, and kids, all different sizes. So I don't know who is coming, so we're ready for every age and gender. So we were asking for hygiene products like baby formula, diapers, because arriving with little kids and diapers are expensive, and baby formula and food in general, and people were donating me gift cards, so I will be able to distribute those as well. People are coming here, they don't carry pillows with them, right? And everybody needs a pillow and a cozy blanket every night. So we do have beds as well, and mattresses and chairs and tables and pots and pans, kettles, everything. I even have brooms because you never think another person will need a broom, but you use it every day, right? Dishwasher liquid, sponges, all stuff like that. Those are amazing.
Why did you feel it was important to get involved?
Who else? To leave your home, to leave your husband behind, it can be really tough. To travel with little kids, like I have 3 kids of my own. I just cannot imagine how would I travel to a new country with nothing, just one suitcase, with no job. I mean, it's not easy.
Well, Russia is marking the Soviet victory against Nazi Germany in the Second World War while engaging in a war of its own against a neighbor. President Vladimir Putin used the stage and the patriotic event to justify his decision to send Russian troops to Ukraine. But as Russia deals with the high cost of invading a NATO ally, the West is trying to determine his plans beyond the rhetoric. Chris Brown reports.
Above all, war is now what characterizes Russia under Vladimir Putin. And today was a national celebration of it. Putin justified Russia's invasion of Ukraine, claiming it was either attack or be attacked by the West, although there is zero evidence anyone planned to do that. Putin framed this war as akin to the Second World War against fascists and Nazis, although it's Russian soldiers now being condemned for committing war crimes and atrocities in Ukraine.
For them and for Putin, there can be no victory day, only dishonor and surely defeat in Ukraine.
On the streets of Moscow and largely across the country, it is Putin's narrative that's celebrated. Russia's cause is always right, said Igor, and Russia has a lot of enemies. It's a pity all of this is happening now, said another woman, but it's being done for the good. But Putin did not declare full-time war mobilization, scaling up Russia's military effort by drafting soldiers to fight, although this analyst says he may still do so.
Russia cannot sustain this war given the resources it has been using so far, so it has to have more men physically, more people with arms fighting in Ukraine, and there are very little opportunities to get them from elsewhere.
Russia's NATO opponents, meanwhile, spent Victory Day doing military drills on the Black Sea, about 120 kilometers from Ukrainian waters, carrying out a special operations exercise. NATO now has more ships, soldiers, and equipment along its eastern border with Russia than it's had in decades. The buildup has been rapid and dramatic. NATO has gone from having 4,000 troops in Eastern Europe before Russia's invasion to 10 times that many now.
Ukraine and everything that happens over there is a threat. A threat.
Hurrah! What is no clearer after this day, though, is how Putin plans to finish the war he started. Chris Brown, CBC News, off Constanta, Romania.
Well, Ukraine's President Vladimir Zelensky marked the Second World War victory by promising that the war-ravaged nation will have 2 victory days to celebrate soon.
Могли тоді, переможемо і зараз. І Хрещатик побачить парад перемоги. Перемоги України.
He was, of course, referring to Russia's war on his country, which has now entered its 11th week with no end in sight. Russian forces have renewed their efforts to wipe out the Romanian-Ukrainian fighters holed up at a steel mill in Mariupol. The strategic port city appears close to being fully taken over by the invading army. U.S. estimates that Russia has about 97 battalions deployed, mostly in the east and south Ukraine, but its troops haven't made much progress on the much-prized Donbass region as Ukrainian forces offer stiff resistance. Well, so that's 98-year-old Gerda Cole. Cole was sent to England during the Second World War to flee persecution in her native Vienna. As a teenager, the Jewish refugee was forced to give up her daughter for adoption. This weekend, a reunion with Cole's daughter and grandson who lived in England. They were shocked to learn Cole is very much alive in Toronto.
Oh, this is amazing. This is amazing. This is so amazing. Oh my God. 80 years. Got this funny feeling in the bottom of my stomach. I'm shaking. Up until just over a year ago, I didn't know that my mother was still alive. I knew very little. I still don't know much, and there's 1,000 questions I've got to ask her.
I found out all of the information here. I knew that my mother had been adopted, and we didn't know anything about her birth parents. I finally get in touch with someone. He said, "You won't find a death certificate because your grandmother is still alive at the age of 97 and living in Canada." I was like, oh my God, that's just blown my mind. The idea that her mother was still alive and she would have the opportunity to meet her was so exciting.
Do you remember about giving me up?
One day I remember was at the courthouse where I had to sign you away. And I was screaming, and they couldn't do anything with me, and I had no choice but to put my signature there. And then I was so upset that I didn't care what happened.
You're my mummy. And I've been telling my kids about that. They're telling all my friends about that.
You're my sweetie. A miracle. I can't think of it any other way. And I thank God for it. Thank you all for coming.
Younger people know what's going on, and I trust in the younger people in Russia.
Music superstars Bono and The Edge were in Kyiv this weekend. The U2 frontman says he trusts that younger Russians will throw Putin out. The pair performed a 40-minute concert in a Ukraine subway station and praised Ukrainians for fighting for their freedoms. Well, we've been carefully
We're here at the
watching.
St. John's International Airport. The aircraft is supposed to be landing shortly. And I think, Peter, I'm interrupting you, aren't I?
You go ahead, Anthony. You take it away. That's where all the action is.
Thank you. The plane's going to land in 2 minutes, according to the board. There's a man here. Wayne Holloway is here. And why'd you want to be here, Wayne?
Well, a number of reasons. I guess it's a little touch of humanity to be here, and given that we know the background, the recent background from the people from Ukraine coming here and the misery they've left, and I think it's incumbent upon us to make sure that they feel welcome to Newfoundland, that we do everything we can. It's on our shoulders to make sure that they feel welcome, and hopefully we can encourage them to stay.
Right, and you actually managed to find a Ukrainian flag.
I found a special effort to find a Ukrainian flag. It took 30 days from the time we ordered it, and I bought one for my neighbor as well, so she's flying hers on our street. But I think it's an incredible moment, actually. You know, nobody would believe that 2022 is unfolding like it is in Ukraine, and it's just unbelievable.
The war in Europe in 2022.
The war in Europe in 2022, I mean, is unthinkable.
Right. Well, listen, Wayne, I know there's some other people here with flags, and the Ukrainians will be arriving here shortly. I suspect you mentioned it's quite a moment, right? Why did you want to be here for that specific moment, to see them come here?
Well, I can't say that I wanted to be here for that specific moment in a way, but given what these people are going through, you can't help but feel sympathy for them, and it's incumbent upon us to take care of our fellow citizens around the world. I mean, this is a moment.
I'm going to have to stop you because I think something's happening behind the scenes of the curtain. Thanks a lot, Wayne. Appreciate your time.
Thanks.
All right. So there you have it. Sorry for interrupting you there, Peter. It's hard to sort of hear things because there's a fair bit of noise here. But we'll have more coverage of this, of course, on the morning shows tomorrow, as well as news. And check out our website as well, cbc.ca, and no doubt more tomorrow on Here and Now.
Hey, we didn't even get my music. Boom, 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 bloop. So Wednesday, this is what we're looking at. Wednesday's probably going to be the best day of the week. So enjoy it. Buckle up. So we're looking at 22 degrees. Grand Falls, Windsor, Springdale, Gander, one of those three places, probably going to be the first community in the province to hit the 20-digit mark this year. Going to be a bit of, like, these are sun showers in Nain and Happy Valley Goose Bay, so I wouldn't worry too much about this. Just going to, and Thursday, as I said, things are going to take a turn. Now, I have to be quick. Thank you. I'm going to have to be really quick because we're running out of time, but there's a cold front coming in. Much like an X sliding into your DMs, this cold front is going to slide in, and look at the difference in those temperatures. You're going to go from 12 to 5 degrees in Labrador City, and it's almost going to cut the temperature in half. We're not sure how long this is going to last or how cold it's going to get, but Wednesday night into Thursday and Thursday night, the temperatures will drop. So we're just going to skip over this. This is the long-range forecast. I'm going to walk around and see Peter. Oh my gosh, messed it up as per usual. So this was the picture that I tried to show on Friday night, but I didn't because I clicked the wrong button. But this is a picture that was sent to us by Emma Curtis of St. Lawrence Harbour, and it's a beautiful little shot on a nice sunny day out there on the water. And it's I meant to, and I apologize to Emma because I meant to show this on Friday night, but I forgot.
There you go.
No, I didn't. I pressed the wrong button. I didn't forget. Anyways, that's it. That's it for your weather. Enjoy the next couple days. It's going to be sunny. And if you have pictures, you can email us at nlphotos@cbc.ca for the picture, for your chance to be featured on Picture of the Day.
Well, yeah, it's. I'm now a little bit disappointed that I didn't take Wednesday off because.
Let's just take it off anyways. I won't be in, Julie. Neither will Peter.
Well, somebody's got to do the news. There's always news happening.
Well, Jermaine's around for a couple more days anyway, so you can just stick it to him. Anyways, always a pleasure, Peter.
Well, thanks for being here, and thanks for joining us. Have a great night, everyone.
Ashley should be back tomorrow, and hopefully Anthony will be here as well.
Sounds good.